Good morning, everyone. I wanted to share this assembly with you today because I'm sure you will have been aware over the past few days and weeks that one story has really overtaken all the newspapers, TVs, and media channels, and that's obviously the crisis facing Ukraine at this present time. And through this presentation, I just want to give you a little bit of context about how this has all begun, what is kind of happening, and the impact it's having on the people of Ukraine. And then how the world is responding, and most importantly, how I hope that we can all try and respond and do our bit to try and help these people at this very, very sad and worrying time. So firstly, whereabouts is Ukraine in the world compared to where the United Kingdom is? So as you can see on this map, Ukraine sits between Russia and the Central European countries of Moldova, Romania, Slovakia, Hungary and Poland. Size-wise, it is over 603,000 square kilometres in size, compared to 243,000 square kilometres for the United Kingdom. That's 148% larger than the United Kingdom. Ukrainians call the capital Kyiv, not Kiev. Kyiv is derived from the Ukrainian language name, whereas Kiev comes from the Russian language. Kyiv was officially adopted in 1995. A huge amount of this current crisis is rooted in the legacy of the Cold War 1945 to 1991, which was a period of mistrust and competition between the USA, the West, and the Soviet Union, the East. The world split between the two sides in fear of nuclear war. Russia at the time was known as the USSR, a communist superpower. Western Europe was on the USA side in an organisation called NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation. Both sides feared invasion. Russia controlled several countries on its borders to act as a buffer against the threat of NATO forces. After the USSR collapse, Russia lost what it saw as the buffer zone. NATO remained, and NATO expanded, as you can see on the map here, from 1949 right the way through to 2020. Ukraine, which is part of the Soviet Union, won its independence as the USSR broke up in 1991. Russia has always considered Ukraine to be within its sphere of influence and is extremely hostile to allow the Ukrainians to have closer ties with the EU and NATO. And it's not just NATO that's expanded. Look at the map of the European Union. The light yellow countries are those original countries that form the EU, with the darker yellow countries which have joined up until 2004. Ukraine as yet hasn't joined the EU, but has strong ambitions to do so, which again Russia perceives as another threat. So I'm sure you'll recognise this photograph of Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, and the country's leader for more than 22 years. Some see him as a very strong and charismatic leader who's worked really hard to earn Russia a place alongside some of the most powerful countries in the world. Opinion polls in Russia often say how popular he is amongst his people. But there are critics in his own country that say he leads by force, that he's taken away many people's freedoms, and who disagree with how he runs Russia and deals with world affairs. And here we have the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, who said very early on in the crisis that we will not back down. He posts on Twitter a lot, and he said early on in the crisis that he would not leave Kyiv and called on all other countries as well as the Russian people to help them stand up to Putin. He said, "We know for sure we don't need war, but if troops attack us and someone tries to take over our country, our freedoms, our lives, then we will defend ourselves." And he called on all the people, especially all the men aged 18 to 60, to help defend their home, to join the armies, to take up arms and try and defend their country from Russia.
My name is Ася. We're from Kiev. So we're trying to reach Poland. It was really difficult to leave him because he has to stay in Kiev due to his work on the ambulance, and he has to save lives here, so we have to go together and we have to save our own lives. The house that was bombed yesterday was like 20 minutes from our house, so we decided it's time to go. You cannot really feel anger because this is something we really expected for the past 8 years. I think I will remember the first day forever because this was really hard. The best I can do is to save my mom and my daughter. So that's what I'm doing.
World leaders have labelled President Putin's actions as unprovoked and unjustified. Actions are now being taken to help Ukraine and encourage Putin to withdraw his soldiers. There are different ways of doing this, such as sanctions, support, boycotts, refuge and protests. So sanctions are an official order taken against a country to make them obey international law. As a sanction, some Russian banks have already been excluded from the international payment system. You might have heard of it called SWIFT. This means that their financial transactions in Russia could be slower and more expensive. It also makes it harder for the Russian government to receive money. How will that have an impact and how will that make a difference? Well, it will make it harder for the Russian government to fund the war and put pressure on President Putin to protect the economy. So the other type of help is refuge and support. And you will have heard and seen on the news that many nearby countries are taking in Ukrainians who are trying to flee and escape the war. Poland, for example, has taken over 115,000 refugees and their pets. And in total, there is estimated that 1.2 million people have currently left Ukraine to escape the fighting. The UK government is trying to do its bit too, by allowing anyone fleeing Ukraine with family already living in the UK to be able to join them. But you also have countries like the UK, the USA and the EU who have sent weapons, money and medical supplies to the Ukrainian people still in the country. It is hoped that this support will allow those people still in the Ukraine to defend themselves during the conflict and help those who are obviously trying to flee its effects. And then there are protests. So many protests have occurred across the world over the last week or so. People marching because they want to see change. They want to show their solidarity towards the people of Ukraine, and they want to encourage world leaders to do more. Even in Russia, there have been protests in some of the major cities, including the capital Moscow, where people And then there are boycotts, the refusing to buy or take part in something to show your disapproval. You will have seen how England and other countries across the world have refused to compete against Russia in the World Cup or in the Women's Euros, which has resulted in Russia being banned from those all international football competitions and other sports, including the Olympics, the Paralympics, and many others. It's also caused Manchester United, of all teams, to end its long-established sponsorship with the Russian national airline Aeroflot. And in another slightly different context, Russia is no longer allowed to compete in the Eurovision Song Contest while this war goes on. The hope is, though, by by all this boycotting happening, and that includes, things and items being sold in supermarkets that come from Russia. It is really hoped that this will put an increased financial pressure and social pressure on Russia, but in particular Putin, and with the hope is that he will end the war as soon as possible. Because at the end of the day, there are no winners in war, either side. All there are innocent victims. As you can see here, Yaroslav, a young little Ukrainian boy, probably about 10, 11 years old, who has had to take at very short notice as many of his personal belongings that he can pack into one suitcase and leave his home, not knowing where he's going to end up, how long he's going to be away for, what his future is going to be. All he knows is that he's cold, he's tired, and he's scared. That's what war does. And it is like times like this, it's easiest to feel very powerless and know, what can we do as individuals, as a community, as a country? But there are things we can do, and we can help. For example, you can see a few things on this screen. We can donate food and clothing and other necessities to help those Ukrainians. We can contact UNICEF, the British Red Cross, United Help of Ukraine, and many, many endless other charities who are trying to provide support right now. Most importantly of all, though, we can stay informed and share what's happening, while also remembering it's okay to switch off if you feel overwhelmed. So what can we do? We can do quite a lot, actually. And the most important thing is we can provide those refugees, those many hundreds of thousands of people who are having to have left their home with just a suitcase or a bag. We can give them the things that will just make their life just a little bit bearable. And on this slide here, you can see the types of things that they need. From ladies and gents wash kits, sanitary towels, nappies, rash creams, feeding bottles for young children, babies. Pet food, non-perishable foods in tins especially, please. Toothbrush and toothpaste, a deodorant stick. Men's wash kits, travel towels, cooking saucepans, plates and cutlery. Even a tent if someone, a tent that you're not using at all. Someone can use that. Or a camping mattress or a sleeping bag. Masks, gloves, disinfectants. The simple things that we take for granted, these people need right now. If you can find a way of looking at home, seeing what you can provide, and bringing it into school and handing it in just into reception over the course of this week, that would be absolutely fantastic. And as a community, then hopefully we can just do our little bit to help many, many people. Thank you for your time. I hope this has been informative. And if you've got any questions, you've got any concerns, then don't hesitate to speak to your tutor, your progress leader, or come down to Student Services. And the final slide today is, I just thought, a way of learning a little bit more about Ukraine and some key words in Ukrainian. Thank you for your time, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Привіт! Hello! My name is Julia. Мене звати Юлія. And this video is for you if you want to know how to say hello, goodbye and thank you in Ukrainian. So let's start. Привіт. Привіт. It is very informal way to say hello. Привіт. Привіт. Another way is вітаю. Вітаю. In the morning we can say Доброго ранку. Доброго ранку. Good morning. Добрий день means good afternoon. Добрий день. And in the evening, of course, good evening. Добрий вечір. Добрий вечір. Okay, now let's have a look how do we say goodbye. So the informal way to say goodbye is buvai. 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 More formal ways, and they are also good for informal situations as well, are do pobачення, do pobачення, do pobачення. And also if you want to shine with your Ukrainian, you can say до зустрічі, до зустрічі, which literally means till the meeting. Зустріч, meeting. До зустрічі, до зустрічі. And now the most important word in any foreign language. Thank you. Дякую. 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 So, дякую for watching and don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye.